Welcome to the Connection Central Industry Podcast, where real conversations meet real strategies. Each episode we dive into the industries that keep Australia moving, talking with the leaders, innovators, and everyday operators, shaping what's next. So settle in, turn it up, and let's get into it.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Michelle O'Hara here for your next business industry podcast from Connection Central. I'm very lucky today to have Sam Eid from Outkast with us. Welcome, Sam.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Great to have you. So, Sam, what we'd love to start with today is you telling us a little bit about how the fun name Outkast came about, and just give us a little bit of your background story so the audience gets to know you a little bit better.
Sure, yeah. I mean, right from the beginning, started a Bachelor of Land Economics in Sydney, and found myself in development with Leighton Properties, and spent 5 years in development over in Dubai also, with Sama Dubai and Omniat. And then I came back in the middle of the GFC to Sydney, I think in about 2010, and saw this opportunity for fit outs. There wasn't a lot kicking around in development at that particular time, and fit outs was a game that I had sort of come across in my development, and thought there'd be an opportunity to apply some, white-collared approach, to that industry as opposed to the traditional. I've been a chippy and I've come up as a builder and applying it that way. So Outkast really was born. I sort of remember feeling at the time a little bit out in the cold like everyone else did in that GFC. There wasn't a lot of opportunities happening in Sydney when I came home, and I think Outkast has sort of resonated, and obviously with the K, which has put a bit of a spin on the spelling also, again, just to differentiate the uniqueness. I guess the philosophy that I kicked in with was sort of services back, and that was sort of something that I felt on the asset management development side was lacking within that industry, and I thought there was an opportunity there to make that sort of the unique selling point of Outkast as a business.
Nice. And then at what stage did you come to Brisbane?
I came to Brisbane, I think, about 9 years ago. 9 years ago. So, the relocation to Brisbane effectively was market-led, to be honest. We had a good lot of success in our early years in Sydney, where there were, a market for commercial fit-outs in particular with a high level of incentives, and you were dealing with landlords who are obviously sophisticated, understand that market. So our business and our BD target was the landlords, and they're facilitating speculative fit-outs, etc., display suites for the tenants. That changed dramatically in Sydney at that sort of time with other new infrastructure projects coming on board. The supply disappeared. So that market transitioned from landlords having to incentivize tenants to basically tenants being quite frugal, trying to pick apart everything and save every bit of dollars they could. So the market became quite tight, and saw an opportunity in Brisbane with a lot of the landlords that we worked with in Sydney. It was a highly vacant market, and they were sort of, following Sydney's footsteps with, display suites, etc. And I felt that's just where we flourished. So that kicked me from Sydney up to here, and haven't really looked back. I think the opportunity here in Brisbane in particular is fantastic with the Olympics, etc. that is coming on board. As we all know, the energy's good. I enjoy the market. It's taken a while to get going in Brisbane. It's obviously a very tight-knit market and quite deep with relationship, but feel like we've sort of seen the better side of that now, which is fantastic. And just enjoying the ride.
Nice. Actually, that was going to be my next question. Sometimes here in Brisbane, we can be a little bit cliquey, and we don't love the New South Welshmen because of state of origin.
I tell you.
Now, I'm a Broncos Queensland fan, so careful.
Right. I think I've been called a border jumper quite a few times. But look, it's a benefit, right, to any market to have that sort of network and what have you. I think there's always opportunity in those sort of tight markets, which is effectively happening, just whether it's by hook or crook in terms of the Olympics, that you're now seeing a lot more influence from other states. No doubt globally also in terms of architecture, design, etc. So I mean, it's just a positive thing for Brisbane, which is exciting. It's been fun to be part of its growth. To be fair, it's although I'm born and bred in Sydney, and I guess I've always looked at Brisbane as sort of perhaps the younger brother of Sydney and Melbourne. It's definitely it's got its facial hair now, and it's got its personality, and it's growing fast.
Nice description. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing, obviously with the economy and everything that's going on right now in general. Tell us what you're seeing in your space.
Yeah, look, it's a dynamic and challenging space, to be fair. It's as a sort of a design and construct company, we've got, obviously resources from all the way to design, rendering, project management, site management, etc. it's a bit of a pressure cooker at the moment. There's obviously a lot of price, I guess, price pressure from subcontractors. We're all quite familiar with, I guess, the anticipated shortage of subcontractors. For probably the first time in a long time, I'd say that we're very much a subcontractor-driven company, and that's not just on price point necessarily, but also lead times. I'm finding that for the first time, we're having to probably have longer mobilisation phases, longer procurement phases to lock subcontractors in. There's an abundance of work, and there's definitely an expectation there's
Yes.
abundance of work. So that's making sure that we as a business obviously factoring that into our programs and timelines, and trying to get the jump on clients' jobs as early as possible. And then obviously from the client side, it's like anything, they want the best price. They're bigger beasts if you're working with institutions, large private companies. For them, $100 square meter increase in price affects their values and balance sheets, etc. So there's probably a lot more competitiveness that I think they're seeking from the market in our particular niche for the market as a design and construct company. We're going up for tenders with 4 or 5 comparable businesses. They're quite robust tenders, and that's probably something that's a little bit more unique than in the last, say, 5, 6 years that I've noticed. And they're just sort of testing price, and I think ultimately trying to see who's going to give them the most for the price they need to target. It can sometimes feel like it's a race to the bottom, and we've got to be careful as D&C companies that we don't damage each other,
Mm.
because we need to survive, we need to be sustainable, we need to be there to manage warranties, etc., and continuity of service. So, look, it's a dynamic situation at the moment in the market. So, a few challenges from the subcontractors managing that side of the fence, and then I guess reconditioning perhaps of the clients on the landlord side and owners.
And are you finding in in talking to other business owners, I'm noticing like quite a collaborative attitude towards different companies coming together, both sort of coming together to do the job, maybe because they all know each other really well, so they know they'll be able to secure the price and get the job done well, that sort of thing. And then are you finding that you're sort of combining with those strategic alliances and you're really pulling upon those relationships to get stuff done and get the right people doing the jobs, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a big shift that I can sort of see in what we try to say to our clients, our long-term clients, of getting early involvement, and we sort of see this ECI model, or early contractor involvement. I mean, effectively the turnkey model, which is what we operate a lot under, where we're doing the full turnkey. We've got valuable information that at that real deal inception is important when sort of, I guess, structuring, whether it be tenancy deals, you're buying an asset, repositioning it, that you can make the right decisions with some actionable information up front. So where we can get involved, we're confident that the client gets a far superior economic and speed outcome. I think it's just one of those situations. I feel like we're becoming a little bit more consultative, as you mentioned, but that's where the true value is. And it is more probably about partnerships to get the right outcomes, as opposed to your traditional, you sort of go away, decide what you want to do, sign a lease, come to someone and just expect it to happen. I think that's fraught with issues and danger. We have a lot of value to add at the right time, and why not ask for it?
Yeah, fantastic. Fabulous. So I was at a long lunch recently. Verity held a long lunch with Anthony Ryan from Beta. And he talked about the fact that sort of our construction industry in general, sitting at 2.6%, excuse me, productivity. I choke on it myself. And he said, all we have to do is get to 5%, and it's like doubling the workforce. So now when we talked initially, we were talking about the fact that a fit out can increase productivity. So I'm keen to hear how it does that.
Yeah,
Well, I joked it.
that's okay. I hope you're okay. Hang in there, Michelle. Hang in there. Productivity in the workplace. So, I mean, look, I think it's a fairly simple matrix. I mean, obviously there's a lot of information there at the moment. The workplace is changing dramatically. AI, different processes, work from home, etc. I guess since COVID, the big push has been in sort of collaborative spaces, personal spaces within office environments. I mean, ultimately, how do we engage with individuals, and we're all one of them, to come to the office and feel like it's fun to come to the office, and you can be productive. So again, whether it's breakout spaces, quiet rooms, etc. But probably also more a shift to landlords on a holistic basis to provide better amenity within their buildings, whether it be gyms, end of trips. So I'm sort of seeing, bathroom upgrades, seeing a big shift there. I guess it's trying to reduce the barriers for staff to come to work. And all those barriers, I guess, ultimately, a happy staff is going to be more productive. If they're engaged and they're happy to be there with the people they're working with in a nice space, I think that's where you increase productivity. Look, we definitely see a lot of businesses where, I probably question the quality of the productivity, and I can say safely that you'd walk into those fit outs and it's quite a depressing space. So the value of actually a nice newly fitted out or designed or considered space, it's basic. I mean, you walk into one restaurant versus another one has taken care and the other hasn't. I mean, you're going to eat at one, not the other. So productivity, I think, really works that same. You want to feel good about where you are, where you're working, where you're at, your desk, probably your computers, the spaces you can duck away to make phone calls. Yeah, it's a massive benefit to have that sort of quality fit out, I think, to productivity. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think probably you guys, though, take it for granted. I find it fascinating. I think that, I agree with you. Like if you walk into, well, any environment, but if you do walk into a restaurant and you feel there's a certain energy, isn't there, and an ambiance, etc. I don't know if necessarily people understand, though, that it's whether it's an open plan versus or desks shoved together or whatever. So I think it's probably a gift of yours.
Yeah.
That you'll just know what does work versus potentially what doesn't.
Yeah, look, I mean, just at a very human level, it's about how we present ourselves, right? We take a lot of pride in our self-image, and then I think the things that we're around, whether it be our home, our car, our office, we want it to feel good. If it looks good, you feel good, and you're going to do better things, right? I mean, if you go to a place and it stinks, it's dirty, you've got lousy furniture, your chair's been sat on by 500 people before you, and it's got stains, it's just straight away you're like, what am I? No, I don't like it here, and you feel, out of place. So you're not going to be productive. But again, obviously there's business sense to that. Where do you apply your money and your dollars in the fit out? And again, I think those sort of answers there are more around the common amenity of a fit out. I'm sort of finding, obviously we went through that traditional, we had offices and then we went to activity-based work environments where there's sort of a hot desking environment, sort of coming back to people want obviously their own desk, their own space, but larger common areas, communal areas so they can break out. There's a lot more break time, I guess, more casual time. And I'm sort of finding that shift. And I think, AI in the workplace is going to change that again. I mean, at the moment with our team, we're sort of trying to think, what does that future office in 10 years look like? What sort of the space requirements for businesses? It's quite an interesting thought. There's a lot of, I guess, literature out there at the moment as to what will it be? Will we all, will an office of 100 people come down to 10 people who are managing different AI platforms, et cetera, or people working from home? Will they be in their own office space with lounges, et cetera, to engage them to come to the office because we're not going to have such a large workforce? What pressure is that going to put on commercial property and space requirements? There's going to be there is a big shift happening. And where we come out, I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely fun to be part of it.
I'm seeing George Jetson.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we were brainstorming a few weeks ago. What's a company that's quite AI intuitive? And obviously that can mean many things, but what does it look like? What do you come into? Is it, if someone occupies 300 square meters and they typically would have 30 staff and a density of 1 to 10, does that place only have 5 people? Is it much more a club, a lounge, a business lounge environment that you come to work, and then you've got your clients coming in a very relaxed sort of space. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I think the days of large slabs of workstations are probably gone. But again, you never know. You never know.
Wow. So this is fascinating because I love the fact that you guys are already having this conversation and you're thinking to the future. How far away, though, do you take ideas like that and start talking to your clients about it? It depends on the
I talk about it with them. I talk about it with them now. I mean, there's obviously an interest as a business owner myself on how AI can make certain parts of the business and processes more efficient. And then what does that mean from a resourcing perspective, like, personnel resourcing versus software, things like that. And so I engage with other business owners on this to understand, I guess, look, I mean, when you're talking to someone, they're usually on a 3 to 5 year horizon with their fit out. So, what's our anticipation of those quick changes in the next 3 to 5 years? There probably will be some change, but not a lot. So again, it's just making sure that we're providing, well, look, what typically happens is they want more rooms for, VC teams meetings, things like this, podcast rooms. There's a lot of these that we're sort of starting to build into offices. So they're, realizing that there is a shift in the mentality of workplace, and that's just in traditional offices that still want a podcast room or soundproof quiet rooms or Teams rooms for 2 or 3 people because people are meeting online. So there's those basic elements that are quite prevalent in what we're doing now. Just, yeah, it's going to be interesting over the next 5 years in particular as to what does that start to look like. So, yeah, we do talk about it at the moment. We talk about it with our landlords because obviously for them, they're in the business of leasing space. What does that impact do for leases, for floor plate sizes, all that sort of stuff. So
It's really interesting. It's not even something I've thought of, but I love it because obviously software, like internet speeds, audio visual, digital
spot on.
TVs, everything
Yeah,
changes
spot on.
when you start having that conversation, isn't it? So therefore the layouts and the design changes.
That's exactly it.
That's
I feel
neat.
like we're creating more transient style offices, if that's the best way to put it, more than sort of static offices where there's obviously fluidity in the workforce, whether it's work from home, shifts, they're out on the road, they don't need to be in the office. And we did one fit out for a company, Dabble, and you can join their business and you're allowed to locate in any of their offices around the states. So you don't have to even be in the one office, but you can do your work anywhere. So there's an interesting shift, and it's obviously the much younger age bracket of employees are expecting different things, and I guess we're trying to accommodate that for them. So
That's very forward thinking. I love it. So we talked about ages ago, like clients for life, which now it makes a lot more sense, you talking, but to share with the audience a little bit, like what clients for life. We also talked about vertical integration. So, I mean, a lot of what you're saying now, obviously when someone comes on board, you work out what they want for now into the just sort of nearer future, but then what's next, what's next, what's next? Do you sort of, how do you approach that from a business point of view?
well, first of all, customers for life, I guess. As a business, we just made the decision that effectively we're going to be quite client focused. I know it sounds ridiculous, but key client focused. And in the property industry, there's more than a handful, but it's a very small group of landlords, owners of property. The markets, obviously, once you're in them, they're tiny. Actually, you can understand who owns which buildings, who's transacting. And then obviously, the older I've gotten, the same people are around doing the same projects or same jobs. Clients for life is just an attitude of, servicing your client to the best of your ability in that moment, irrespective of the size and scale of the job, because you're in it for life effectively. Like it's, Outkast is sort of set up for a quick fix or 5 years. It's a career, right? And I guess we look at that like that, and I guess we treat our clients like that. And we've been very fortunate to have clients even that have changed companies that we sort of hold on to, and you sort of start to understand that value in that mentality and servicing clients, etc. That it comes back and repeat business. Even we won't have worked with a client for 4 or 5 years, but they'll call up, you're there, and I sort of finding the value of that the older I get and the longer we've been in business. So
And particularly here in Brisbane, I think, we still are that sort of old country town whilst we're growing fast, like
yeah,
you said, but relationships are just so very important, isn't it? Like, and that
yeah,
trust.
look, it definitely is. And I think you mentioned the vertical integration and staffing, etc. I guess the other challenge in any business, obviously, resources and maintaining those resources. So look, that sort of construction fit out sort of zone, it's hard to retain staff for a long period. So there's not a lot of massive depth in our industry in terms of resourcing. It's not you enter at a junior level and you've got years as you
No.
climb the ladder. Like it's very linear or horizontal. It's not quite vertical. So we try to create, I guess, a bit more depth by looking outside the box in terms of Outkast as a vehicle does the design, manage, construct, that we look at and have other investments, whether it be small commercial buildings, residential fit outs, things like that we get involved with, and we try to engage our staff on that front also to give them something more. I mean, ultimately, look, we're a relatively small company. I think at any one time we're probably 15 to 20 staff, subject to sort of what volume of work we're going on. But we definitely have, I guess, our staff's life purpose at heart, and how we can engage with them on that front to help retain them within the business. At the end of the day, whether it be fit outs or building refurbishments that we're involved in quite heavily, there's a certain value of those works. The market really dictates what quality of resource or what we can afford to pay a resource to deliver that work at that price. So, you get some really exceptional resources and you want to watch them grow and support them. And then to do that, you need to engage with them on different formats, whether we get them investing with us on a residential gut and refurb, things like that. So we're sort of focusing on that, especially for the last couple of years, on how we can do that I say to vertically integrate, but yeah, I guess allow our team to sort of grow with us, I think, on those fronts.
Nice, nice. That's interesting, that diversification and investment piece. When we had Adam Prakara on from Prakara Projects, and he was saying, he's got 75 staff. So of course, if suddenly projects start getting pushed, it's a lot of people to keep busy, right? And he was mentioning, and I loved this concept. It sounds like you're doing similar. That whole point of we've got the resources there, so let's diversify into those other areas like the investment. And so then when things are quieter on this side, we can, utilize them on that side. So was that sort of a actual business strategy that you went down? Did that sort of just come up as oh God, what are we going to do? Or
I think it's a good question. So I think, it's probably dual focus. One is to the point that you just so correctly made. Our industry typically can be quite busy, then it's flat, then it's busy and it's flat. And you can't just afford to hold on to resources paying salaries when there's no work or a project's not starting for 4 months. They're heavy holding costs. So to that point, and then I think just personal ambition. I guess as a designer, construct, builder, we've obviously for the last 16 years, been on the journey with landlords a lot. So being able to buy our own buildings and get involved on that front at a very small scale, obviously not competing with our clients, but and then engaging with our staff to facilitate upgrades there, etc., has been advantageous for us. And then small residential projects, whether they be, we bought a few wool store apartments and are doing a sort of refurbishments there. Again, opportunity to do that when we were probably quiet. We saw a quiet period and we're like, okay, we can apply our resources there. So yeah, in part to sort of manage workflow and try to fill in some gaps, effectively also retain and get our staff engaged on a different level.
You're building assets at the same time, right? Which is a good thing
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
future. Oh, very nice. Talk to us a little bit about the different markets. Obviously, there's commercial, there's industrial. What sort of, and resi you mentioned a little bit. What's your sort of percentage breakdown that you're finding? Is there any sort of one jumping ahead of the other at the moment, or is it quite even?
Look, I feel that the commercial market itself is coming back quite strong over the last couple of months. If you had asked me last year, we were probably a bit more involved in industrial and residential, and I felt that the commercial component wasn't as strong. And I think also when I say the commercial component, I think we were doing quite a lot of building upgrades, lobbies, bathrooms, centre trips, etc., where obviously landlords are trying to enhance their asset to I guess engage with tenants. So whereas now we're sort of a little bit more tenant-led, there's leads in the market, people are signing leases, we're working with multiple tenants, and that's probably something that from our perspective anyways, Outkast has sort of shifted. With industrial, we still have elements happening, but not as prevalent. But again, it's funny, as the size workforce that we are and the type of clients that we've got, they tend to go in cycles themselves. So whether you're working with a core valve, for argument's sake, they might buy an industrial portfolio and there's a bit of industrial work, and then they buy a commercial asset and there's commercial works. I guess in part we're sort of led with some of the brighter minds in investments in terms of where they see the markets going, and we're sort of following to facilitate delivery of those assets for them. So
Nice. How often, Sam, do you find that you get together with sort of all these property guys and stuff and just sort of shoot the breeze and find out what's happening? How do you find out what's going on? Do you all go fishing or to the sports? Or
I mean, I'm not a fisherman, but look, I think what happens is, again, I mean, I'm meeting a client tomorrow who's a Perth-based, I guess, the landlord, and they're coming over here. They're looking at 2 assets in Queensland. So they give me a call, we catch up, we'll go out for lunch, we'll talk about the market. They're obviously interested to understand what I know, what's happening, and then get a view on what I think of these 2 assets that they're looking to purchase. So they're very sort of ad hoc, I guess, in nature. And I've with our key clients over the last 15, 16 years, it just tends to be one-on-one lunches, relationships when they're in town. I think everyone on a personal level is quite busy. I cherish my weekends with my families. I don't probably get away as much as perhaps I used to when I was younger on the social network. But yeah, I think look, ultimately, I don't know. You want to add value to people. I think that one-on-one relationship with a lot of our key clients and a lunch or a breakfast is
Mm.
where we sort of bounce off each other and different ideas, etc. And it might just be phone calls in the car. I'll call my clients once a month just to sort of say hello and see where they're at to and just have a general chit chat. So on the phone. So yeah.
Very good. Very nice. And so from a personal point of view, what is the vision for Outkast? What's the Sam Eid vision?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Look,
It's a hard question to ask.
it's
And
a
I'm
hard,
sure to answer
hard
because
question.
it's a plan in this sort of environment. That's why I'm asking. It's, you know.
Yeah, look, it's hard, and my business partner Sebastian and I, it depends what day of the week you get us on. To be fair, look, I think when it comes to fit outs where we're at as a business in terms of our target sort of turnover, we're happy at that size. I think we enjoy the market that we sit in, and we have fun. For us, it's probably about just creating better efficiencies internally as a business, and hopefully driving better profitability. Not necessarily growth through turnover. I think we've sort of been on that journey, and sometimes it's nice to look at that top line figure, but do you look at the bottom line and you're like, what's the effort for? And
What's the point? Yes.
yeah. So, and again, you start to potentially lose yourself. I mean, it's small in terms of our client management. I drive that client management and sales management for the business itself. So there's only so much I can personally handle, I guess, and you want to continue to provide that right value. So that's sort of the outcast, but we've always outcast, I guess, model. So just to continue doing what we're doing, do it a bit better. But then obviously alongside that is how can we vertically integrate with other, I guess, co-businesses, whether it be looking at trades that we're sort of looking to get involved with, whether it be mechanical, plumbing, etc., and how we can sort of help facilitate some growth for smaller businesses and being part of those businesses, whether it be through our chain of work or mentorship, and along with just, asset opportunities, working with other clients with, refurbishments of or repositioning of assets. So whether we're sort of investors on it or not. So yeah, there's sort of the nucleus, which is Outcast as our sort of, I guess, the heartbeat of it. And then just what other things can benefit from that Outcast service. So and that's sort of our focus. I think we respect and understand our value in the market at the moment as that sort of a builder and be able to deliver. I think delivery is becoming key, right? I mean, we sort of see it at the moment, whether it be with residential, you need to have that ability to deliver. So we're selective with what we get involved with, but we know that we also have, I guess, what's the right word for it? The right strength to go and deliver and make a job happen. And I think we can be quite a valuable partner to someone on that front.
Nice. And lastly, see how quickly the time goes. So with Sebastian and yourself, like who plays in what lane? Do you have your lanes?
Yeah, 100% we do. Sebastian is, I guess, an accountant by trade, so to speak. But he brings in that sort of fiscal management and a bit of an operational control of the business. I'm very much more the sort of the sales and the building technical guy with the design team. Also, I've got my wife Elizabeth, that's the head of our studio. So there's a little bit of a family tinge to it. So across the three of us, I guess we sort of drive good outcomes, and we do stay in our lanes. There's no two ways about it. We've got a really good relationship amongst us, and I think it's been working. It's been working, so we enjoy.
No, I think you'll have definitely onto a very good thing. And if you had to just leave the business owners today with one thing to think about in their businesses going forward, what would you tell them to think about?
The details. Focus on the details. It's the small things that catch you out, and I think I've sort of learnt that in my career. If you let those little sort of things harbour, you'll ruin relationships, you'll blow costs out. So just focus on the small things, get them right, and the bigger picture takes care of itself.
Good gold. Thank you so much today, Sam. You've been
No worries.
fantastic, and I can't wait for everyone to receive this podcast and receive all your great tips. Thanks for today. See you.